So we are joining you here on a Friday afternoon. You may notice that Donald Trump is no longer the president of the United States.
Yeah, that's
Donald
what
who?
that's what that good feeling you've been having over the past few days has been. You know, you just wake up in the morning and just, maybe the sun shines just that little bit brighter, like just that bird that used to tweet outside your window maybe about 5 years ago has returned with its lovely song. Like, yeah, this things just seem just that little bit better, and that's why. You're not going crazy.
I did notice a white dove going across a rainbow earlier today.
Was he holding an olive branch? Because I think you might have inadvertently wandered into a Bible story.
Maybe this is a Bible story, George.
I don't think this is the right set. I think I'm on the wrong set. So being without Donald Trump as president of the United States is something akin to microdosing very small amounts of LSD. It's just like everything's just a bit better, isn't it?
So I think the reason for that. Oh, is he?
Could you
hear
Tom? Oh, no, there
he
you
is.
are.
No?
Lagatha Lockbrook. The reason why you're feeling better is that Biden signed a bunch of executive orders, basically retconning, whatever you want to call it, a bunch of stuff that Trump did.
Hitting the old Control Z on Trump. Just bam.
Smash that button.
Undo. Track changes.
Remove. And if you like this administration, make sure you hit the like button. Smash the like button. Smash the bell for notifications. Make sure you're getting all the updates on this administration, so you never miss an executive order.
But also hit the dislike button if you disagree, because it's all about engagement.
Is that
you want to engage with the content? Don't care if you like the content. It's all about the engagement. The engagement pleases the all-powerful algorithm that is Western democracy.
They haven't actually been saying that in the press conferences, have they? Or is that just?
That's more a YouTube thing. Adam, we were referencing YouTubers with the smashing like. I mean, you're new here, but
I skipped past that bit when they say that shit.
Yeah. YouTube is a popular video sharing platform on the internet. The internet was invented by Al Gore 5 years ago. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, all of this is factual. Google it.
Yeah, 5 years ago. That time that Tony Abbott said Malcolm Turnbull invented it, complete bullshit.
It's weird because he's normally so accurate. So
yeah,
he's normally so accurate, and Malcolm Turnbull's usually like really good at making decisions about the internet. Anyway, Biden was inaugurated. We keep going off in tangents about really niche Australian political references when we are talking about the 46th president of the United States being sworn in. So that happened. I didn't watch the live presentation. Did either of you guys get up to watch it? I knew some people who did.
No, I didn't get up at 2 a.m. in the morning to watch it. No, I saw some bits and pieces after the fact.
Look at this beard and hairstyle, Tom. Do you think this beard and hairstyle got up at 4 a.m. to watch that?
Definitely. You look like the exact kind of person I'd see at a craft brewery who's got like a master's in political science who would definitely be up.
Yeah, give that guy a flannel shirt and he is absolutely that guy.
Maybe I
don't work at Telstra Shop.
Sure.
Like that.
I don't think Adam is the person who would go to sleep and then get up to watch the inauguration, but I do think he is the person who would have stayed up all night drinking and happened to be awake at the time the inauguration happened if it wasn't a school night.
It was definitely a school night though, so no win.
But it was an interesting inauguration from what I've seen, mainly due to the the COVID restrictions that of course the Biden team insisted upon. While we all remember, I was about to say fondly, but not exactly that fondly, that after last inauguration, there was big discussions about the size of a particular thing at the inauguration. Not Donald Trump's penis, funnily enough, but the crowd who turned up.
The crowd, to be clear. That sounded
he was funny. Trump was probably pretty happy about the fact that, Biden did draw a smaller crowd than he did at his inauguration, but that's because Biden wanted there to be a smaller crowd because there's a pandemic going on. So there's, while there was the large congregation of maybe the more important kind of members of Congress and all that sort of stuff, there was just that sea of flags out the front, which, I don't know, does that seem more dictatory?
More flags?
I'm thinking like, Star Wars Force Awakens, like Hux in front of the giant First Order flags yelling at his stormtroopers. If that was just a sea of American flags, I don't know, it feels a bit like autocratic.
Tom. More flags means you're more patriotic.
Yep.
So that can only be a good thing.
More flags is
True.
more good. We know this.
Yep. The more flags you can cram into the shot, just the more patriotic it is.
It's not even about the number of flags. It's about flag density. How many flags per square inch?
Oh, per square inch. Sorry, I thought you meant maybe the density of the actual fabric of the flag. Like the heavier and thicker the flag is,
sure,
like the more patriotic it is.
Does that mean like cheap overseas made flags? You want some like local, hand woven flag.
Yeah, but so do you want it thicker and heavier so as it's harder for it to blow in the wind? Is like even resisting a force of nature like wind just makes you like, is that don't tread on me just harnessed in the power of a flag?
What you're describing there, Tom, is basically just a stars and stripes carpet attached to a flagpole.
Yeah, pretty much.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. I bet they sell them at those stores that are never closing down.
Made in China, but
maybe China. We should probably take that idea and maybe email the administration. I'm sure they would take the feedback well. Engaging. We'll engage.
I can hit up Biden on Twitter because he's still on Twitter, unlike the guy who tried to steal the country.
So you're telling me, Tom, with the shots of the inauguration, that the Democrats didn't try to Photoshop more people into it?
No, not to my knowledge. Prove me wrong, children. Prove me wrong. But no, not that I am aware of at this stage. I don't think what I was hoping for was that, I don't know, the camera guy is, he only gets a gig once every 4 years. He's always there for the inauguration, once every 4 to 8, depending, what kind of ceremony they have to have. But, that's the only gig he gets. So, it's like clockwork for him. He's like, all right, shot of the president giving their speech. Cut to the first lady or first gentleman. Yeah, perfect. All right, maybe cut to an important other senator to see their reaction. Cut to the crowd. Then cut back to the thing, and I'll cut back to the crowd. I've got the speech. That's a good thing to be looking at the candidate, at the new president again. But cut back to the crowd. So it wasn't full of just constant like, oh shit, whoop. Like we thought, just cut to the crowd. Oh, it's just flags. No, back. Like just awkward cuts to just this sea of nothing. Would have been rather funny, but no, from what I've seen, it was not a bunch of that.
I did notice, it's a sidebar, at the New Year's Eve celebration on ABC this year, the crowd was just made up of lights, but they did frequently cut to the shots of the crowd of just lights. I was like, okay, anyway.
Yeah, it's like you're on autopilot a little bit.
So
the inauguration happened. Joe Biden took his oath using the world's largest, most Evil Dead-looking Bible I think I've ever seen.
I'm sure it has historical significance, Tom.
I'm sure it does, but it was huge and massive with these giant locks on it and stuff like that. I was like, that looks like the book that the teenagers find in the basement that has written all over it, never ever open, and then they open it and then demons come out. But yeah, so that was fun and all that sort of stuff. And Kamala Harris was sworn in as well, the first female vice president.
Was she also sworn in on the Book of the Dead, or did she have her own?
Well, I didn't see the Book of the Dead, I think, in those photos, not off the top of my head. I'll look it up.
Or maybe what was the one from Charmed? They had a spell book. I'm just thinking big old books.
Oh, well, and Buffy had the big vampire book that the Watchers had and all that sort of stuff.
So we're saying that can only lead to bad things, or
looking at it, Kamala Harris, she had 2 books actually.
Oh shit!
So I wonder what they'll be.
One was just a copy of Boy Swallows Universe, very popular Australian novel that's been going around lately in the last couple of years, and The Dry, which has just recently been turned into a TV series starring Eric Bana, if I'm not mistaken.
So this one's free, Eric.
Movie. Support Australian film. So Trump, he pissed off. He reckons that they came what they came. They
saw. They came everywhere. They came, and then they left.
There was lots of coming. We did what we came to do, and so much more. Whatever that means. At that point in time, though, I think on the first day or second day of Biden's term in office, he started executing orders.
I
and
thought
they
you were
were
about
like,
to say executing Democrats, but
yeah, I mean,
really could have gone either way there for a minute.
that's the previous president, who I didn't execute actually. Donald Trump in his last day pardoned 100 people.
Pardoned a bunch of people.
144, I believe, was the final number.
Just a pardon
the
party.
144th was very last minute. It was in his last hour of having the power to pardon, and I believe it was the husband of a Fox News presenter who's a lawyer, I think. Okay. I'm not sure. I can't quite remember. But yeah, there was one that was really last minute. But among the pardons was Lil Wayne. Was one.
Lil Wayne, the rapper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Whose name is
I've got a question here. Did the Tiger King, did Joe Exotic get a pardon?
No.
Seems like a missed opportunity.
He had a limo lined up and everything.
Yes, I was going to say, I don't have a source on this, but I think my partner was telling me that, there was a limo waiting outside the prison. Because they were really certain Joe Exotic was going to get pardoned, and then it just didn't happen.
Oh, no. Trump said at one point, I might pardon Joe Exotic. That was literally something that he said in one of his batshit crazy moments.
For 144 pardons to go through, he must have had a decent amount of those sitting in the chamber ready to go. It's not like he was just thinking, I can't even think of 144 different people. So I must have been collecting this list for months and it'd be like, okay, last day in office, I'm going to fucking pull the trigger on this bad boy. It's going to be so dope. I'm going to pardon near 150 people all at the same time. Just go out like the fucking Joker, just mic drop.
Well, yeah, because you just don't want to have to put up with the political fallout, surely. It's if you pardon them 6 months earlier, it's like, so why'd you pardon blah, blah, blah? And you're like, oh, every day with you people. Yeah, I did it because they're my friend and I'm corrupt, okay? Is that what you want to hear? My God, every day with you journalists.
Oh my God, wouldn't that be great? He goes, why, Mr. Trump, why did you, separate the children from their families at the border? And it just turns out, he goes, I'm an asshole, okay? I didn't think about it. I just fucking hate immigrants. And I was just being a fucking asshole. And I didn't know it was going to be a whole thing with you guys, okay? So I'll take it back, all right? Whatever, man.
I thought we were all on the same page. I thought we all hate immigrants.
I thought we all hated the Browns, and I guess I was wrong.
The country.
Okay.
One of the people he did pardon, though, I think, was it Steve Bannon, or did I just make that up?
No, Steve Bannon was on there. Yeah, Steve Bannon was on there. Steve Bannon, pre any sort of trial for what he was arrested for.
How can you get? This is the thing I don't get. How can you get pardoned for something you haven't been convicted of?
You can be pardoned for something. I think it's a thing of preemptive pardons are a thing, but it's you have to have done you not so much have to have done the thing, but it's you can be pardoned for a particular action. Right? So it's not like, Adam, I pardon you of murder, and that means you've got one free murder at some point in the future. No. You just be like, you are pardoned for killing a person who we know has died. You may not have been proven beyond a reasonable doubt to have killed the person, but now even if they could, they can't because I've forgiven you. It's meant to be a forgiveness thing, right?
It throws in the face though the whole innocent till proven guilty. You could be basically sitting there going, I'm not guilty, I'm not guilty, I'm not guilty. The president pardons you and you're like, yeah, cool, see you. Basically I did it.
So
it's such a dumb system.
Effectively also what double jeopardy's yeah? You go through a trial, you are acquitted, and then you can't be tried for the same crime twice, and then you can be like, yeah, I did it. Flipping the bird, they can't try you for the same thing. You can basically say oh, I did it.
So there was a Trump staffer. I remember the story coming out a couple of months ago where basically Trump just threw it into conversation. I guess they were putting together this list, and he's like, "Hey man, you want a pardon?" And the staffer's like, "I haven't committed any crimes." I'm like, and so for you to give me a pardon would be to insinuate that I've done crimes.
Yeah,
and I haven't done any crimes because I'm not a criminal.
That's
so I don't need a pardon.
I will no, I won't say I respect, but one thing I was like, oh, maybe Rudy Giuliani isn't as dumb as he seems, because people are always saying are you seeking a pardon from the president? And he's like, No, of course I'm not. Because if I was seeking a pardon, that means that I've done a crime. And I haven't done a crime. Like, he sticks to his line of, I have not committed crime, so I'm not wanting a pardon.
Well,
because wanting a pardon means I'm guilty. I'm like, all right, at least it's not that dumb.
We'll find out if he's
did he get a pardon?
Oh, that's a good question.
And Trump didn't pardon himself nor his family. So, because people were wondering whether he would, and a lot of the advice to him was, if you pardon yourself, much like Giuliani's pointed out, that kind of makes it look like you did a crime.
And it does also
don't want to look like I did a crime.
It does also beg to be tested, right? So a lot of the experts that were talking about this are saying, like, well, the only way to test if this is constitutional is for a president to do it, and then us to test it in court. So the moment that he pardons himself for a crime, there's obviously state prosecutors and a bunch of other people who would want to get in there and go, well, let's see if we can,
because there's no precedent, right? There's no precedent for them to.
And there's nothing sort of in the Constitution that kind of says the president can't pardon himself, because presumably the people writing it didn't kind of think they had to. Like, you can't just say, well, I forgive myself. And then just go home.
All right, me. 3 Hail Marys. Get out of here, you little scamp. Go on, get out of here, scram.
Yeah. Oh, come on, look at me. I've learnt my lesson.
So Trump took Air Force One back to wherever he's going to reside now, Florida.
Possibly in Mar-a-Lago or whatever.
Can we talk about his little send-off party that he threw for himself? Did you guys hear about this?
Oh, yes, please. Go ahead.
Glorious, delicious details. I love seeing the rats coming off the sinking ship as they realize, like, it's actually no longer, now that he's lost, it's no longer politically beneficial for me to be associated with this loser. So Trump, when you would normally have a situation where you're welcoming the new president and his wife to the White House, and there's sort of, they do a little, how's it going, shake hands, tour of the White House, coffee. That's what Obama did with Trump, and what Bush did with Obama and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's pretty standard, that peaceful transfer of power that people have been calling it recently. Yeah. Trump's decided, fuck that, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to throw myself a leaving party at 8:15 in the morning before I get on my plane.
At an Air Force base, wasn't it?
Yeah. And the reason why is because, as he is at that time still currently president of the United States, he could order all of these military personnel to be there. So all these military people who have to come because it's literally an order were there, sort of just being there under orders. And a bunch of Trump lackeys were also sent invitations to come and do this weird send-off party at 8 in the morning.
Is it too early for a breakfast beer at that point?
100%. I think if you're still part of the Trump administration at this point, you never quite stopped drinking. So,
fair.
So he has this party where they're sending invites around to people who have clearly, demonstrably are no longer Trump fanboys anymore. People like John Bolton, people like Anthony Scaramucci, who have come out and made very public statements not in support of the president's actions. And Scaramucci was invited, and all of these people were told to bring 5 of their closest friends.
Yeah, you got 5 plus 1s. 5
plus 1s. Or 1 plus 5s.
It's a generous +1 count. Normally, if you're planning an event, you want to keep the budget pretty minimal, it's a generous thing to say, I'll give you a +1. I know some people that are like, no, man, just you, no partners. Let's keep this tight. I don't want to spend extra on the sushi. Let's get this tight. 5 plus 1s is very generous.
It's almost like a bringer show. I don't know if you guys ever had that growing up when you were participating in a comedy show or a variety show or something like that, or a show where you'd have I used to do shows of short plays and things like that. And one of the things was you've got to bring people. They're bringer shows. You get to perform if you bring a certain number of people. It's a thing in comedy.
Oh.
And Trump was essentially orchestrating his own bringer show. Scaramucci said, for me to have been invited, it must have been a mass mail out, because we are not on side. He's been on Bill Maher, shit talking Donald Trump recently. So they're clearly just taking a stab in the dark at just about anyone who's on the contact list to go, can you bring 23 of your closest? Normally these kinds of things are restricted when you're sending off a president, or it's something to do with the presidency.
special
It's
invites.
a generally very special occasion. So it's like
VIPs.
senators and their wives. They're like, no, you can't bring your children, you piece of shit. There's overcrowding. And just no one wanted to be caught dead at this fucking event.
So what happened? Did anyone rock up, or like what happened?
I'm sure people did. I haven't seen pictures.
People there. Probably the people that were ordered to be there and his kids and shit.
I'd love to see some photographs of that. I'm not sure if there were.
There was a good little piece of footage of Don Jr. So kind of like weeping, looking into the sun, the sunrise kind of situation. And there's actually, I think it was posted by Michael Rappaport, who's a comedian. And it's just the video is him pointing the camera at the television screen, seeing Don Jr. like all weepy because his dad's not the president anymore. And it's just Michael Rappaport in the background going, you fuck! Ha! Okay. Like that's the whole video.
That was so loud, that just cut out and we just heard nothing. But
really?
Anyway,
it's just laughing. It was so loud, laughing maniacally.
Discord knows when you're going to break it. It's like,
is that what it is?
We're not going to have this,
that was... it's just hilarious. And then he hopped in a helicopter to fly off to somewhere where Air Force One was waiting to take him to Florida, all that sort of shit.
Did I get off the plane and then there was a shot of Melania. Trump stops to wave at someone. Might have been them getting on the plane.
Going.
And she's like, see ya.
Does not stop because do we think she's left him yet?
How long till she files for divorce? That's the question.
She's probably already filed it. It just depends when we hear it.
I think you need to wait. You got to wait 3 months.
Do you?
Nah.
Or
a month?
A week.
1 month.
She's been waiting 4 years, mate.
I mean, technically, she's been waiting the entire length of their marriage.
I mean, true, but probably like once it was during the primaries and all that in 2015, she's like, oh no. So it's like, oh, but I can't leave now.
Wasn't there an instance from like a quote or something from, was it Fire and Fury, about when they won the election,
that she just went white,
that she just like shut down.
Like she cried, he went white was I think the story.
In Fire and Fury they basically make the assertion that Trump really never actually thought he was going to win. The whole thing was just to launch his personal brand and launch the Trump News Network and all this sort of stuff, and they basically won the election kind of on accident, and they weren't prepared for it and didn't know what to do, and they luckily They spent the next 6 months getting their shit together, and they turned into a really tight governing coalition. Just kidding. They continued not to have their shit together for the subsequent 4 years, to the extent that the Biden administration is coming in, and they're doing very basic things from day one, like initiating the Defense Production Act to make sure that things like PPE and needles and things like that are manufactured locally in order to shore up supplies at home for the pandemic, ensure the vaccine rollout, all that sort of thing. It's like... Yep. These are very like baby basic plans that like day 3 of the pandemic, the Trump administration should have rolled into effect. But because there were no fucking adults in the room whatsoever, and it was just Donald Trump ordering Diet Cokes and throwing them at his various sons' heads, none of this shit happened. So it's like they're starting from day 1 is what it seems like.
Now, let's leave Trump to one side. So Biden, executive order city at the moment. Like he was just like...
Rack City, bitch, rack city, bitch, rack city, bitch, rack city, bitch.
I don't have a full list in front of me of what they were, but I know there were some
biggies. Let's get back into the Paris Climate Accord. That's a big one.
Yep. There was the wall. So the wall is stopped construction of the wall. So they've built about 400 miles or something of it, and there was still 500 miles that were funded under the emergency provisions. So that's been paused and stopped. Whether or not they end up, I think, constructing the end of it, I don't think they will. I think they'll probably just leave it.
Why bother?
I mean, what's the point?
Yeah.
Doesn't even encompass the whole border.
From the reports that I've seen in the past, a lot of that money was really just repurposed to maintain and upgrade existing portions of wall. Like, it's not as though they're building these huge concrete skyscraper kind of walls. Certainly that kind of stuff exists in a very small number of parts. But like a lot of it was just like this rusty chain link fence is now just a proper fence.
Yeah. They ended the Muslim ban, quote unquote.
I forgot about that.
There's so many terrible things that whenever I'm reminded, like, oh yeah, remember when he tried to wanted to nuke hurricanes. I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. Insane in front of in amongst all of the batshit insanity of the last 4 years. I was just like, oh yeah, he tried to steal democracy. He wanted to nuke hurricanes. There was that whole thing with Kim Jong-il, or Kim Jong-un rather. Making best friends with a fucking psychopath.
I've got the list, and it's actually on a financial market watch website, so people are keeping a keen eye on this,
cool.
Whether or not to buy or sell. So re-engage with the World Health Organization.
Oh yeah, that was a big one. Apparently, Fauci is going to be at the next meeting as like a sort of interim representative before things get like fully rolling again. So it's like, and there was an interview with him where they're like, "Hey, are you glad you don't have to work with that fuckwit anymore?" And he was very diplomatic. He was like, "Oh, look, certainly there were some things which are not scientific, like advocating hydroxychloroquine and things like that. So it's good to not have to worry about those sorts of things anymore." I was like, "Yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about the fact that Trump just, even though he knew the pandemic was a thing in February and that it was airborne, he just like didn't want to deal with it and just wanted to put lights inside people's bodies and to get them to drink disinfectant, I guess. Like these are all just things that were passing things that came and went, and we just completely forgot about all this dumb shit that happened. Like,
I'll rip off a couple of more. So we've got where did it go? Preserve/fortify the DACA, which helps the Dreamers. So that was the thing with
was it defense against
something about migrants.
Deferred action against childhood arrivals.
It's illegal immigrants brought over as children, like to not like uproot their lives and ruin them.
Yes, I quite enjoyed that
grown up in America.
I enjoy that you put the quotations there, the air quotes around illegal immigrants. Yes, I appreciate that. That's good.
Yes, well, it's just like, I know that's like, it puts the image in your head of what I'm talking about, but it's not a founded descriptor.
No, and I think that's the right thing
asylum
to
seekers.
Do. Yes,
probably a better term.
What else we got? He revoked a permit for Keystone XL pipeline. Pause energy leasing to the ANWR. I actually don't know what that is, but that's an interesting one.
Keystone pipeline is probably not good. It's probably not good things that they're stopping there. So
I just love the returning to the World Health Organization thing. Just like the letter that they sent. Like I think they put excerpts of it on the ABC or something like that. Just saying like we are writing to rescind a letter that was dated at this time. You guys, paraphrase me, you guys rock. We respect what you actually do. And we're not leaving in July. Just double checking. We're not doing that.
Hey,
just ignore everything we said earlier.
I was super drunk last night. I didn't even know what I texted you. Let's just forget about it. Like,
I feel that's going to be just Biden's first month. Is like just calling up everyone that Trump's alienated and being like, "Hey, so that guy's a fucking idiot."
Hey, so he's not even. He doesn't even go here anymore. So I just wanted to apologize for that guy. It's all just. Are we cool? Are we chill? Like, I just wanted to. Who is this? Japan? I'm sorry, I offended you guys. Like, are we good?
And some of these are like they're executive orders. There's memorandums, requests, and proclamations. So the legal definitions of what each one of those are, I'm not 100% sure. These are all executive orders.
I think also there's one that starts the step to reversing the transgender ban in the military.
Combat discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation.
Yeah, it's not like that it undoes it, but it's like now that it's a proclamation of like the government's policy, defense departments are gonna have to deal with it, and so they have to roll it out. So it's not an instant it's over, but it looks like that's the beginning of backing that out.
It actually really goes to show how few legislative achievements Trump actually had. Like a lot of what he did was ruling by fiat, just making executive orders.
Yeah.
And the problem with making executive orders without any buy-in from Congress is that as soon as the next guy gets in, he can just roll back all of those fucking executive orders on day one, which is what Biden's doing. So it's good that the Democrats have control of the House and the Senate, and they will actually be able to pass legislation, because rolling back pieces of legislation is going to be much harder.
In line. Yeah, if they can all get in line and decide what they all want, yes.
What else has he done? Oh, he's required mask/distancing on all federal property by federal workers. So before, I guess, if you were a federal worker or in the White House, you could get
Do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want, basically.
It's just like level 1 pandemic stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I love the way it was phrased, because it was sort of phrased in a way that sounded like he just wants to mandate masks like for everybody countrywide, but it was like, for anywhere where I hold the authority, masks and social distancing has to be a thing.
He's also initiated a directive to mount a vaccination campaign, which will have the goal of 100 million shots in 100 days. So there's obviously a bunch of other orders, such as what George was saying, which basically help shore up the infrastructure and the systems and the methods in which they'll actually combat the pandemic. I think there's another article which says something like they're pouring trillions into this. Like, it's such the amount of money that the American government's going to be trying to seek to inject back into recovery is like in Australia, we get hung up over hundreds of billions of dollars. Like, they're talking trillions, multiple trillions.
When you've got a country which has got 320 million people in it, as opposed to 25 million that we have here, when you're the largest economy in the world, the center of all business and commerce, like that isn't China, right? Then you're going to need an outsized contribution in order to keep that economy going. And the fact is, it's to everyone's benefit, because for so many people, America is their largest trading partner, alongside China. So, and it's still the central point for commerce and finance in the Western world. So, yeah, it's a really big problem that we're facing, and big problems need big solutions. They don't need Trump screaming into the abyss and tweeting nonsense and, just making everything worse. Like, this is what it looks like when an adult is in the room doing the job of government.
Indeed. So yeah, that was a good couple of days, I think. As you said, feel a bit better. There's rainbows. There's a dove with an olive branch in its mouth, all that kind of stuff. It's nice.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how, like, the impeachment trial and everything pans out, because this sort of thing's never happened before. Trialing a president who's no longer in office, because it kind of means a lot of the automatic stuff from my, like, very base understanding, but all the automatic stuff that would come from him being convicted in the impeachment trial doesn't actually kick in, because, like, the phrasing of it is that he has to be removed from office as a result, and they haven't removed him. He's already out. So for a lot of the things like revoking his pension or Secret Service detail or travel allowance and withholding future office, all that sort of stuff, it has to be specifically raised and voted on. So it's not like they convict him and he automatically loses his ex-presidential privileges.
Right. Okay. So even if he's convicted, they all need to agree on that punishment. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's what I was reading that the other day. And I was like, damn. Also, no wonder it's in, like, someone like Mitch McConnell's interest to delay it a bit, because then it can look like he's doing something, but also not have as much of a punishment impact.
Well, the more time that's in between the conviction in the Senate and the actual events of the day, the more time that passes, the less it's going to be at the forefront of people's consciousness, and the more they're going to go, well, he's not in power anymore, who cares? But I think it is actually really important that there is some kind of censure for the actions that he did, and there is some kind of accountability, and there are consequences. And I think the most important thing, beyond any of that, even if none of that happened, as long as he was barred from ever running for office again, that'd be enough for me. Like, to know that, when you do things like incite an insurrection against the Capitol, you don't get to be president anymore. Like, that's enough. That's a start,
Oh yeah, it's a start, I guess. Oh, sorry, Adam, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, in many ways, in terms of the Republican establishment, they'll be there is a window here for them, right? So those people that have been looking at Trump quietly behind closed doors over the last however many years, if they want to get him out and, open up the door for them to sort of come back in and perhaps hold more sway over the direction of the Republican Party, now's their window. If they leave the door open to him to come back in 2020, what it will be, 2025, 2024.
24.
Like, they're shooting themselves in the foot in many ways.
Yeah, and Mitch McConnell knows that. Like, this is his opportunity to cleanse the party of Trump. But he's doing so in a way that's, he's sending up a trial balloon. He's not actively saying, like, yes, the president needs to be tried. He, did a sort of quiet article on Background for the New York Times saying, like, he was pleased to hear about it, and, like, has come out and said, like, anyone who incites violence is bad. So he's left the door open for it, but he's not actively saying, like, yeah, let's fucking convict Trump. He's a piece of shit. Like,
I reckon he's just leaving his options open.
He's leaving his options open. Yeah, he's sending up a test balloon, seeing what the public reaction is. If the Republican base finds it palatable and it gives him an opportunity to exercise Trump, then he'll do it. But only if it's politically advantageous, right?
How many polls do you reckon they're doing right now?
Oh.
How many polls do you reckon are going out to the mum and dad?
More polls than Raise Outdoors.
Yeah, sorry, Tom, I cut you off before. Were you going to say something?
I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. Sorry, that was it. Yes, it's a start to bar him from office, but I suppose there's all these interesting things about him still getting like a travel allowance and all that sort of stuff. Like, obviously I'd want him to get none of it because he's a piece of shit.
Sure.
But there's all the clever things of, using that travel allowance. Because I think it's not just for like flights or cars or whatever, but for accommodation and stuff as well. He can spend it right back into his own business.
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff. Like, just the level of corruption is insane.
Which he's been doing all along. Like, I remember a story.
He's been doing all along.
I remember a story from like year 2 where he was like sending air crews through like some diversion to refuel in Scotland, even though it was way out of the way, because a Trump like resort property was there. They would have to stay there. They charge rack rate to the government for dozens and dozens of crew members staying there all these times, racking up hundreds of thousands of dollars of charges against the taxpayer, which didn't need to be done. Also, he could line his own pockets. Like, the graft of this administration has been like, avarice doesn't even begin to describe the rapacious corruption of this piece of shit. And Joe Biden, it just seems like a nice guy. They're like, hey, could you imagine? They lit the lights at the Washington Monument, 400 lanterns representing, each one of those 400 lanterns representing 1,000 coronavirus deaths. And they stood there, Joe Biden and his wife, Kamala Harris, and her husband, and they had a moment of silence where they grieved for the dead of the country. They restored some kind of dignity back into what they were doing. And it's just like, I can't even imagine a universe where Trump would do something like that, where he would even pretend to make a show of caring about anyone other than himself.
He didn't want to go to the World War II cemetery because it was wet, apparently.
Yeah, and it was full of losers who decided to die for their country. What chumps.
What chumps. They died so I could be president. What chumps.
I think we're going to find it hard not to talk about Trump still. I'm going to have to start posting articles to wean you guys off.
People have said to me like, your podcast, it's going to be hard, mate. What are you going to do for content if there's no Trump around? What are you going to do, mate?
Have you seen Scott Morrison lately?
He's a real gift to comedy. And I'm like, don't worry, there's plenty other fuckwits. There's heaps of fuckwits. Craig Kelly, who we can cover later. Scott Morrison. We've got plenty of local homegrown fuckwits.
Let's use that impetus. Let's jump into that. And this isn't in the rundown, but George can probably talk to this. Local fuckwit Craig Kelly, also member of was it the Senate? Craig Kelly? No, he's a lower house, isn't he? Craig Kelly.
He's a backbencher, so that would make him part of the lower house, wouldn't it? MP.
Yeah, MP. So somehow he got elected through preferential voting. Who knows how? Anyway, so he had many opinions the other day. I mean, he has opinions basically all the time on Twitter and various other methods he has to communicate with people. Similar to Trump, is the kind of guy that doesn't seem to understand that what you say as someone who holds an office of government matters, and that if you're wrong in what you're saying, that it's potentially damaging. Of course, Craig Kelly.
Turns out the words of a member of parliament have consequences, and you just can't say a bunch of bullshit without any consequences. You can't just say shit because it sounds good and because it clicks with your own dumb cognitive bias. you need to, as a member of parliament, believe it or not, you do have an obligation to say things that are at least vaguely plausibly true.
The funny thing is, Craig Kelly, with his own warped view of the world, obviously thinks he's doing that. And throughout the pandemic has been a real activist and real proponent of, I can't even say the drug's name, hydroxychloroquine, whatever the bloody hell it's called.
Oh, yeah.
As well as various other things that are
Hydroxychloroquine,
which are not in the national interest anyway in terms of health advice. It's all right-wing, potential, conspiracy theorist bullshit that he buys into and then peddles as the truth. Anyway, so the latest thing he said is, what's the latest, George, in terms of what he's been putting out there?
So one of the things, I don't know if it's just that the Australian media has sort of pulled a Craig Kelly thread and the whole Craig Kelly dumb weapons grade idiot sweater is coming undone as a result, or if he's just consistently been a weapons grade cunt. But there seems to be a lot of Craig Kelly stories lately. One of this was, a week before Christmas, he posted to his official Facebook page about an experimental COVID-19 treatment widely rejected by the international medical community. So this is the thing that I love about these conspiracy theories. And when I say love, I mean thoroughly detest, is that they have this propensity to share stuff from some unverified corner of the internet. It was an Italian article that he interpreted using Google Translate, saying that the Australian federal claimed that there was a day of reckoning coming for the government's health experts and the media for their refusal to heed his medical advice to recommend the drug. Someone have already put in a Freedom of Information request for all my correspondence to the TGA and the National COVID Evidence Task Force, where I'd repeatedly documented the evidence they were ignoring, he wrote on Facebook. But obviously the emails themselves, when reveal something completely different. So it's just a guy who's just criminally irresponsible. They'll take all of the huge mountain of the body of evidence, all of the different various groups that says COVID-19 is real. For 1-ish% of people, it does prove deadly. It's very infectious. It's airborne, all this sort of stuff. And they go, yeah. Every major health organization in the world agrees on that sort of stuff. But have you seen this fucking article that I translated out of Italian using my fucking phone? That's just as good of a source of evidence. Those are equal in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm
also an idiot.
He's been spouting this shit now for months. I'm just trying to find his latest rant. Here we go. So this is, and he's also a climate change denier as well.
Of course, because the things go together. If you're not going to believe in real things, you may as well believe in all of the real things. You may as well not believe in all of the other real things, as well.
So 17 hours ago, this is on Facebook. He's linked an article in the Australian, so go figure. And the headline in his little, I'll read out his thing that he said. The Paris Agreement makes brainwashing children in schools compulsory. Independent thinking is incompatible with the Great Reset, so children must be taught to group think and not to question experts. So basically what this article is referring to is that the UN is talking about, well, people that have signed up to the Paris Climate Agreement, maybe we should have something in each member country's education system which talks about the environment and carbon and all these things which are known to be true.
Yeah, and so how we teach kids about gravity, and other science facts. Maybe we should have some stuff across the board on climate change. That seems very reasonable to me.
But George, gravity doesn't make me feel bad for getting a takeaway coffee cup. This would.
I don't think it's that, because to presume that it makes him feel bad would suggest that he has a conscience in the first place. I don't think that's the problem.
I mean, sorry, let me rephrase.
Yeah.
Gravity, people don't use gravity as a means to tell me that I should feel bad about getting the takeaway cup.
Why can't I just be a sociopath?
You telling me to feel bad.
I just want to strangle some kittens. Why is everyone getting all up in my grill about it?
Jeez. If anything, that's good for the environment. They're pests.
You fucking leftists can't even make up your minds.
Fucking fuck. Yeah.
So his idea is that somehow it's not okay. I mean, he's equating an education piece basically with being like what he's doing is equating an education piece with Chinese re-education camps, basically. It is effectively the same.
It's the same bullshit that they were pushing for safe schools. Being like, you dare to teach people that there are people of other sexual orientations and that there are like other genders and all this sort of stuff. You're gonna create an army of trans kids, is what you're gonna do. It's like, no, it's just education. To know that things exist, so as then you can live in a world with them.
I kind of like the idea of a trans.
Understand other cultures and other peoples lived experiences.
I kind of like the idea of a trans militia, though. That definitely sounds like an excellent band that I would definitely listen to.
Oh, trans militia.
Yeah,
totally. They'd make the world a better place.
100%.
The trans person I've met's been great.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, Craig Kelly is one of a few Australian members of Parliament and the Senate that have and continue to spurt this kind of shit. I mean, we used to talk about Malcolm Roberts a lot, who was just considered a Fruit Loop at the time. But,
absolute fruit cake.
And now as well.
And now he's back, isn't he?
His eyes have only gotten wider since then.
But like, he's gone out of the news. Like, people have just, for some reason, people are focusing on what people like Craig Kelly, and I think George Christensen has a bunch of stuff as well, but he doesn't get nearly as much media as Craig Kelly. Sky News love Craig Kelly. He's like,
of course they would.
So anyway,
and the stuff surrounding, particularly the Paris Climate Accord, is just next level dumb fuckery. I know we were trying to move away from the States, but have you guys seen Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, pulling the old line of, by rejoining the Paris Accords, clearly Biden cares more about what people in Paris think than what people in Pittsburgh think? I'm like, wait, are you actually this stupid? Or is it a thing of, I have to be against whatever the other party is, and my base will get riled up by this notion, so I'll say it? Or has he actually...
It's a good soundbite.
It's fundamentally misunderstood.
For Ted Cruz, it is completely cynical. It is a cynical power grab to try and hang on to be the new figurehead of Trump's base. He knows what he's saying is horseshit. So does Josh Hawley. And they incite it anyway for their own political avarice. It is the deepest, darkest pit of like shitty things a politician can feasibly do.
It's so dumb. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, actually, I would love to see a journalist just get up on stage with Ted Cruz and be like, hey, Ted, George from the Washington Post, how's it going? Are you a fucking idiot? You're like, what? I'm just asking.
You just drop a Lee Sales like opening question.
Yeah,
like just one of those really blunt, off guard.
I was asking if you're a fucking idiot. Well, what do you mean? Well, because you said... You realize it's called the Paris Agreement because it happened in Paris, not because we're doing it for Parisians' benefit.
Yeah, it's like, as AOC, I think, pointed out, retorting on Twitter, being like, you realize the Geneva Convention isn't just all about what people from Geneva want, right? Like, you idiot.
What was the armistice? Where was that signed for the First World War?
Can't remember.
Versailles, Treaty of Versailles. Yeah, it was really not about.
There we go.
Not about the palace at Versailles.
Fucking French want everything, apparently.
Apparently, we're ending the war to please Louis the 16th. Well, as far as I'm aware, he's been dead for several hundred years. Fuck that guy. Ted Cruz, 2021.
Now, just to finish on today, back in Australia, there was an article that came out the other day, which I thought was kind of interesting. And it came after a conversation at my work where everyone was talking about the property market. And also Josh Frydenberg, basically, over the last few months has been spruiking that the economy's rebounding and we're going to make it easier for people to get credit and blah, 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 blah. And
solid Frydenberg impression, by the way.
That's what we need. That's what the Australian economy needs, is more credit so people can buy more expensive houses. That's definitely been the problem. Yeah.
You can take that idea to the bank.
You can. And borrow $900,000 against it.
I mean, the concept is, if people have more money, they'll spend more, and that in a circular economy, that goes back in and helps with dollar multiplier effects, helps boost the economy, and that's a good thing for jobs and growth. Okay?
That's the theory.
Jobs and growth.
That being said, we did have a royal commission somewhat like 12 months ago, maybe more.
Further than that, wasn't it like 2018? The Banking Royal Commission?
A couple of years ago.
Feb 2019 was the infamous, the famous photo of the commissioner sitting there glaring at Josh Frydenberg while he was all like.
Yeah, Kenneth Hayne was the commissioner.
Hayne, that's right. Hayne. That's
where Josh Frydenberg takes the report from Kenneth Hayne that he will definitely read. Thank you, Kenneth.
Definitely read.
We definitely appreciate it. We're going to implement all the recommendations.
Recommendations.
And so it got me thinking in this article as well. They've obviously thought about it. Well, what has actually happened since that Royal Commission? So there were 76 recommendations. Now, 27 have been actioned. They've been put in legislation or are in force now. There are 4 which have been abandoned completely. Some of them by default, like for instance, like mortgage broker. I can't say this properly.
Remuneration.
Yep. Basically, because something else cancelled that out, it's no longer applicable. So stuff like that is the reason why it's cancelled. There are 45, concerningly, 45 which are either haven't been even like looked at yet, or have been, say, legislated but pushed back to when they actually are going to occur. So they're sort of sitting around, waiting to be implemented. So things like the 2019 Banking Code, legislation passed in December, but now requires ASIC to actually make it a regulation. So there's a lot of stuff like that where it's like, oh, we've legislated it, but we haven't done anything with it yet. And it makes you think, like, does it mean that like that the Royal Commission basically, like, because of COVID, we're just going to pretend like it never happened? Or
That's
is it
the plan? You know what this country needs, Adam? I know we had all these recommendations for additional regulation and compliance, but you know what the country really needs? Deregulation.
Oh, just the freest market.
Just the freest market. That's always worked historically. Like, you know how free the market was in America of 1929? Super free, bro. Massively deregulated.
And it was great. There were no problems.
There were no problems for easily 6 months.
And what a 6 months. Which is one big party. Have you read The Great Gatsby?
Woo!
So like things that were implemented to basically, like, all these, look, if anyone goes to get a loan now, it's actually a lot harder than it used to be to get a loan, probably for a good thing. Like, there's a $900,000.
Well, it was, and then they relaxed all of those rules. So it was, when I was trying to get a loan, it was briefly much harder to get a loan. They're like, what's this Netflix? And I'm like, it's a Netflix subscription. I don't know what to tell you. They're like, what's this credit card
have one.
in your workplace's name? What's that about? I'm like, it's my workplace's credit card. Like, why do I have to get a letter from my fucking HR department to explain what a work card is to you? Like,
so that was the kind of thing, yeah. So when George, what's that, 2017, 2018, around then?
Yeah, it would have been the end. No, it would have been 2018.
Towards the end of 2018, yeah.
Something like that.
And since then, so since this pandemic has occurred, they've tried to, Frydenberg at least has flagged, I don't know how they've implemented it, but releasing red tape to be able to increase, the speed of applications and the flow of
maybe just red triggered by the color of this tape. Like, why do they hate red tape so much?
Fuck, they hate red tape.
I think red tape. What, Josh? Show me where the red tape hurt you.
I mean, the question I have is, like, if someone's put red tape over something, like, let's say you put red tape over a cliff face. Generally speaking, the red tape indicates that you shouldn't walk over the cliff face. But
that's just the nanny state telling you not to kill yourself, Adam, and it's fucking ridiculous. Okay, I'll kill myself if I want to.
They've clearly got lots of shares in blue tape. I think, it's clearly an invested interest.
So anyway, look, I just thought it was an interesting article that we had this Royal Commission and it basically upended the banking sector, and a bunch of things changed, and it was a force for good. And we heard all these no
ATM fees, transactions don't take as long. Like, they did a whole bunch of things to be like, please love banks again.
Basically, and
which it makes it clear that, like, this is shit they could have done all along. They just chose not to because they're a bunch of pricks.
Basically,
yeah, but no, let's not think about that, George. Don't think about it.
The things that they have done, like things like a cap on commissions, they don't feel like the most overly significant kinds of reforms, like the ones that are really meaty that would actually substantively improve people's interactions with the financial system, are either pending or have been abandoned. So it's like, okay, yeah, we'll stop mortgage brokers acting as financial advisors or whatever, but like, okay, but that wasn't the problem. That was like one of 40 something recommendations and nowhere near the most important one. Like, not even in the top 10 most important recommendations. They're like, great, nobody cares about that. It doesn't affect us directly, the banks. That's fine. We can do that. Everything else, don't worry about it. We'll just let it hang for a minute. 2019, what was it? The 2019, what was it called? The 2019 banking code. That's still not happened as of 2021. Cool.
Yeah. So we're waiting on ASIC, to make the actual regulations which people have to
oh, fun.
Is this like sales meetings where they're like, oh, where's the so-and-so deal? And you're like, oh, just waiting on an email. It's going to come through this week. I swear, mate, it's coming. It's definitely coming. It's for sure coming. But so, just in case it's not coming, what's the worst case scenario if it doesn't come?
Anyway, but I mean, the property markets have kicked back into life across Australia. But I guess the point being is if house prices start rising again, yeah, sure, that's great for the short term, like, shot in the arm. But is that still like unsustainable? Property price growth is not good for the economy.
No, it's great, Adam. Just constantly rising house prices to infinity at an exponential rate forever. It's completely sustainable and normal, and I don't know why you've got a problem with it, okay? This is just normal economy stuff. You wouldn't understand, you fucking lefty. You fucking raging socialist, you. Trying to say that people who work jobs should be able to afford a house to live in. You fucking piece of shit, lefty communist pink-eyed bastard.
If inflation, if CPI, not CPI, if wage growth was 2%, 3% or something like that, I'd be like, well, great.
Mate, fuck wage growth. Just having jobs for most, for a lot of people, just like having a job is the priority right now. Like,
yeah.
Anyway, so that's something I just wanted to bring up. But I think we just need to keep an eye on in Australia. Just pay attention to what everyone's doing in our country rather than what the former batshit crazy president was tweeting in another.
Yeah, hopefully the US maybe doesn't take as much of the limelight now in terms of just the doom scrolling, and we can go right back to remembering that our leader's a fucking idiot as well.
I'm just very much looking forward to just like Joe Biden in the White House, like
doing something boring,
drinking a tea, just like maybe some photos with him in the Rose Garden, just like eating a sandwich, just like normal stuff.
Yeah, they got a lot of shit that they need to do. Like, gotta not like, don't let up the pressure. Like, don't stop pressuring them to be reform the police and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, at least not a crazy person in charge, at least that I'm aware of. Biden might surprise us.
You know what I'm a big fan of is that he's staffing his administration with, get this, wild idea, but see if you follow me with this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Subject matter experts.
Oh, shit.
Do you mean someone who's an expert in the subject that they're employed in?
Yeah, correct.
Seems.
Wait, you mean not mates?
Yeah, not like someone's friend of his who's on Fox News, but like an actual person who's an expert in the area who you've never heard of and has just spent their entire life. You're working in like public health policy and things like that.
You mean your chief strategist? His chief strategist isn't a Nazi.
Yeah, he's just a strategist. It's a bold strategy, Colin.
I don't understand.
See how it plays out for him.
I don't get how this. How can you govern?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. We'll find out together.
Yeah. We'll find out together.
On that note, we have been, we are, and we always will be Unnatural Selection. This is, I guess, the last show of the Trump administration. The final one.
Last show was the last one of the Trump administration, I guess. But let's see if we ever have to talk about him ever again.
Well, I'm sure it'll come up in the occasional angry rant. Make sure that you follow us on all the social medias that have, do, or ever will exist at Unnatural Show. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Twitter at Tom D. Heath.
You can follow me on Instagram at ACDareen and down to KFC where I'll be getting dinner.
That actually sounds delightful. Thanks for listening, guys. Love your faces. We'll see you next week.
Getting up the dirty bird.
Dirty bird. So show 500's coming up. What do you guys want to do for that? Do you reckon?
I know you want to get naked, Adam.
Naked.
You can, you do you. I'm not going to yuck your yum.
Let's put it on the board.
You have to get it in once. You just had to get it in once per episode, don't you?
You haven't heard this before, George.
You make me sick, honestly. Can I end the show now?
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
okay, bye.
Yes. But yeah, Adam, whip out your dick.